September bass fishing can be brutal for a variety of reasons. One, the water temperature is dropping, those cold nights. Two, there is a lot of bait fish out there, right? You got shad, you got bluegill. There is a lot to eat, making your bait maybe just one of many options for the bass out there. And number three, it's a transition month for bass, meaning all the places you were catching them this summer, well, they're moving away from those spots and making their way back to the shallows. So they're not as predictable as they were over the past few months. And four, these fish are highly pressured by all of the anglers that have thrown hundreds and even thousands of times in the same spot. A lot of them has fallen prey to it. They get hooked in the mouths. They're starting to get a little bit smarter, making it a lot difficult for you and for me. So if you're tired of receiving photos from all your friends of all their giant bass, well, it's your turn. It's your turn to start sending those things to your friends and making them jealous. Let's hop in with number one, which is going to be your weedless underspin. So what I'm going to be using for the weedless underspin are going to be these Owner flashy swimmers, and I got a variety of different sizes here, but what I like to pair these with is going to be the Strike King Rage swimmers, and I like two colors for these. This is going to be the KVD Magic, and then I have, one sec, and then I have the Ghost Shad. These two colors, at least for me in Ohio, absolutely kill it. All right, so this is what they look like right here, and they have a twist lock at the top. And so this is a 3/0 hook, and how you essentially attach these with this twist lock, all you do is twist it in there and just wind it around. That's what makes this so incredibly easy. Line it up, it's like so. Bring that hook through the bottom. I can tell they're sticky because it just kind of jabbed me. And boom, make sure that's nice and straight. And this guy right here will spin and just give that flash, and man, those bass will smash this. A few tips to fishing this though. First, you're gonna wanna swim this above the bass. So what's gonna be important in this moment is using your electronics to identify those suspended fish. Secondly, this is a sight-oriented bait, right? It's not putting off a lot of vibration, so that lateral line of that bass is gonna have a hard time locating it. And so I'm really only fishing this in clear water presentations, because the stained water with that low visibility, they have a hard time finding this thing, and so I typically am not throwing this in stained or muddy water. Another note, if you're looking at your electronics and those bass are not suspended, they're actually on the bottom, I have another presentation for you with my lure number 4, which is absolutely sling, that I would use over using this guy. But clear water presentation, suspended bass, juicy. All right, the setup for this bad boy, I'm gonna be using 10-pound fluorocarbon. The rod length is gonna be anywhere from 7 to 7.4, and the gear ratio on my reel is gonna be 6:3 to 1, maybe a little bit faster. That's how I'm gonna fish this. So the retrieve on this bad boy, you just want a steady retrieve, unless you notice that they are busting shad on the surface, then you wanna speed this up. But really that 6:3 to 1, or maybe a little bit faster, just a nice steady retrieve on this is gonna get bit. Also keep in mind, being that you're going to be fishing for suspended bass, you're not going to have a lot of deflection. So you're going to have to create your own deflection, which means you're going to have to pop, let it sink, let it fall. The idea here is this thing's going to be spinning as it goes. But to get that color flash, maybe the angle that bass is not seeing, maybe you guys have all seen this. You're like, oh, I saw the bass flash me, or you saw whatever fish just flashed you. That's what you want to do with this as well. That straight, steady retrieve is only going to throw off flashes at particular angles. So if you kill it, let it fall, give it a pop, this thing's going to look injured, it's going to look like that weakest link, and it's going to get eaten. Now let's talk about the hook set with the underspin. Now I love a good solid hook set, but not every lure presentation requires an insane hook set. Even though it's a lot of fun to watch on videos, not all of them require it. Now, a lot of times you'll see me doing it because I am fishing jigs, and a lot of those jigs have really stout hooks. However, the underspin, it doesn't take a lot of pressure to expose that hook. So you don't need a massive hook set. In fact, you might even lose the fish if you give that stuff the juice. So what you're gonna do, just a nice steady hook set, that thing will depress that plastic and you will pin that bass easy. All right, lure number 2, and this guy's right here is a YAMATANUKI. It's ridiculous. It looks like a freaking bowling pin, but I'm telling you what, because it looks so ridiculous, a lot of anglers won't fish it, and that's good news for you and me, because in those highly pressured fisheries, bass haven't seen this lure before, and because of that, they are going to smash it. I don't know about you guys, but this thing absolutely catches donkeys for me. So a few hacks to fish in the YAMATANUKI. Guys, this isn't gonna hold up too much. Why? Because Yamamoto baits have a lot of salt in it. Salt is more dense than water, and it's gonna make it sink, and it flutters, and it's that flutter actually makes their worms and the YAMATANUKI and the weight of it get bit. Now, because of that, it doesn't hold up, so it's gonna rip out on the top up here on your 5/0 hooks that you're gonna hook the 3.5 incher up to. And at the bottom, it's gonna rip out in here because that's where the hook goes through. And so it doesn't last very long. However, there is a hack to make this last like 10 times longer. Let me show you what it is. I have a bag of O-rings right here, and then I have this O-ring expander tool. I believe this one's from Field and Stream. I believe Arsenal makes one as well, and I think they market it as a wacky rig tool. So what you do is you put that O-ring over to the expander tool, and then take your YAMATANUKI, stick the top end in there, and just slide it off. And then you have this O-ring on the top. All right, next we're gonna take a 5/0 EWG hook. Now I don't use any other type of 5/0 hook other than Gamakatsu. And the reason why is to stay sharp, penetration after penetration. And so take this hook, and what you do is you'll run that through the top, just below the ring, like so. Run it around, spin it 90 degrees. Now you'll see that offset bend just sits right there on the edge of that ring, and then boom, make sure this is nice and straight. See the hook's kind of hidden right down in there, and that's how you hook up the YAMATANUKI. They have a 2.5. I don't use it. They actually came out with a 4.25. Haven't got my hands on them yet, but I'm excited for that larger presentation as well. So as soon as I get my hands on some, there'll be a video coming out. For my setup of the YAMATANUKI, I got a black and blue one right here because I'm fishing dirty water. And whenever I fish dirty or stained water, I'm putting on the black and blue. But I run it on 20-pound fluoro. This is going to be a 7.2 medium heavy power rod. And then I have a 7:2:1 gear ratioed reel. And this thing handles the YAMATANUKI and those hook sets perfectly. This is a lot of plastic to move out of the way to get that hook set. That's a lot. That's why I use a 5/0 hook. I know a lot of other people out there are like, oh, use the 4/0 hook. Don't use a 4/0 hook. Use a 5/0 hook. You are gonna miss bass if you use a 4/0 hook. And you're gonna give that hook set, you want to give those fish some trauma, folks, because it's going to take a lot, like I said, to depress all that plastic, to expose and pin that bass. There are 5 ways I like to fish this guy right here. One, you could skip it. It skips very well, and so if you got the overhanging tree, skip this bad boy under that tree, and a lot of times this thing, how it falls is like this, kind of crazy. And so skip it under a tree, falls like this, it will get bit. Number 2, I like to fish this on steep structure. If you're up on some type of riprap, a lot of people, their instinct will go to crankbait. I do not. I grab the YAMATANUKI. This is weedless, and it hits like the edge of the rocks, and it kicks this tail left and right, and the fish will just come up and chew it. Way number 3, I will throw this to shore if I don't have brush or something I'm not going to get tangled in, and so instead of splashing it in and potentially spooking bass, especially in shallow water, I'll throw it to shore first, then pop it out. Looks like a more natural presentation. And the 5th way, I will throw these to intermittent lily pads. And so what I love about it is that as this little blunt edge catches all those lily pads, this thing is kicking left, right, and that action drives those bass crazy. And whenever you hit a hole, this thing will do the flutter down. A lot of times they'll get hit then. So I love fishing this bait in lily pads. I know it sounds crazy. A lot of people will go to a frog. I pull out the YAMATANUKI. And the 5th way, which is the way that I've been getting my biggest bass, is that I will throw this in heavy cover. Maybe there's a tree that has fallen down in the water. It's been there, it's dead. There's a lot of sticks. And a lot of times if I'm throwing my jig in there, it gets caught up. I have to go in and get it in my kayak. I usually ruin the hole, and I have to come back 30 minutes later once it's recovered. With the YAMATANUKI, let this thing fall, I hit a stick, it pops over, the tail flips over, and that is when I've been getting my biggest bites, is throwing the YAMATANUKI in heavy cover. So if you've never thrown this in heavy cover and a lot of sticks and a lot of branches and there's fallen down trees, throw this in there, let it fall, pop it over the sticks. After you pop it over, let it fall again. It's gonna fall in those holes where those big bass are hiding, and it's gonna hit it, and you're gonna have the freaking fish of a lifetime, and you're gonna send your buddies the photos of the big bass. You're not receiving them anymore. You're gonna be the one sending them, dang it. Lure number 3, and this one I don't talk about very often, and I just started bringing it in my rotation. This is going to be your punching rig. And so I'm going to show you how to hook this up. So the reason that this made it into my arsenal of the 6 rods that I carried any single moment is because whenever it is really sunny, really hot outside, and the open water bite is really tough, that is signaling to me that they went under the lily pads. And so I will break out my punching rig and go in after them. So how you set this up, I use 65-pound Power Pro braid. You're going to need a bobber stop, these guys right here, some type of skirt, You need your sinker, a punching hook, and then of course, I like the creature bait. I believe this one's from Strike King. I forget what it's called. I feel like it has the word bug in the name. So what you're gonna wanna do is run your line. It's kind of really hard to see. You're gonna run your line through that piece of metal on your bobber stop, and I'll throw links to all the description below. And then once you have it through there, you're gonna pull that down and over. There you go, just like so. And you can keep pulling it down until it's over the line there. So keep in mind, there's actually different sizes of these little bobber stops here, which is kind of interesting. And so for 65-pound line, you're gonna need the large size bobber stop. I will throw the links for this in the description below. So next you're gonna need your sinker, and I like the ones with little edges on there. Makes it really easy just to push in and it right there on the skirt. Go ahead and push that through there, like so. And next, I want to tie on your punching hook. These are really stout hooks. Now, once that is all set up, go ahead and push your bobber stop down to the edge. And the key here is why you need a bobber stop, because this needs to pull everything through the mats or through the lily pads. Without it, this will move up your line and this really will be useless. And so you can't set this up without the bobber stop on there. And now you hook up your creature bait. Take creature bait, run it to the top, run about a 1/4 inch out the bottom, run this all the way up. Now, the idea here is that you want to hide the hook in here. So you kind of put that at a 45-degree angle. The idea is when you're done here, I didn't get it perfect. The idea is when you're done, you want your bait to be straight, right? If this thing has an angle or it's popped in or popped out, take your hook back out. And this is going to be kind of a weedless presentation that you're going to throw into the holes, kind of pitch it into the holes. It's a lot of fun. Now, so when you throw this down in there, that's a really heavy, stout hook. You got to make it come out through the plastic. And so when this thing gets bit, you want to give them the trauma once again on that hook set, because these are super thick, stout hooks. And because of that, you're going to need a rod that's like a broomstick. So you're going to need a heavy power, fast action rod to get those bass up and out, because after they hit it, they're going to go down and away. They're going to try to break you off. But with 65-pound braid and that nice hook set past the barb, it's going to be really difficult to get free. And the final lure, this is a lure that has been winning me money. And if you watch the channel and watch all my shorts, it won't be a surprise to you. That's going to be this guy right here, the SWIMJIG. This one's actually missing his tail, and I'll tell you why that happens here in just a moment. So the SWIMJIG is designed, as you can see, to move through the water column with ease and also move through a lot of grass without getting caught up. It usually features a lighter weed guard here because a lot of the bass are going to be smashing this in motion, and it's going to have a lighter gauge wire because it's going to, once again, just like on a chatterbait, bass are hitting this in motion and you want to penetrate past the barb. There are a couple trailers that you can throw on the SWIMJIG. I either will be putting some type of missile D-bomb trailer, and so those flaps on the back just really make some great action. But really, to be honest with you, right now in September, I'm going to be throwing the same trailer that I have on the Underspin on my SWIMJIG, and that is going to be the Strike King Rage Swimmer 3.75. Once again, the two colors are going to be the KVD Magic, these guys right here, or this beat up thing right here because it keeps getting bit, or it's going to be the Ghost Shed. Another hack here is I will never put one of these guys on my SWIMJIG without putting a little bit of super glue there, because a lot of times they'll fall back, and once they fall back and they get wet, it's nearly impossible unless you have an insane hook keeper on here to keep them up and tight to the lure. So a little bit of super glue is going to make that stay on for a long time. So the setup I'm throwing my SWIMJIG on, this is actually my jig rod. So this is going to be my Impulse 7.4 extra heavy, extra fast action rod. I'm throwing on 20-pound Invisex from Seagar, and then this is a Corrado K, and so this is going to be a 7.4-to-1. A lot of times, whenever those bass hit the SWIMJIG, they come straight toward my kayak. Maybe I'm catching them in somewhat shallow water. They're going deep, and so I got to be able to pick up line really fast. And anything below a 7.4, I have a hard time keeping up with those bad boys. So when you think SWIMJIG, I want you to think juicy ambush point, right? I'll throw this next to heavy cover, next to docks, down weed lines, really any place that you can imagine a bass would be hiding to ambush some type of smaller bait fish. That is where I'm throwing this, and I'll just throw it out, pop, pop, let it sink, pop, pop, let it sink, pop, pop, let it sink. And man, usually within the first 3 or 4 pops and let it sink, this thing will get eaten. All right, so this lure right here has caught me the most biggest bass of the season. We're talking 4, 5, 6 pounders. That's 20, 21 inch bass on the swim jig. If you're not fishing the swim jig, 1, it's just an incredibly addicting hook set. And 2, if you want to start catching bigger fish, tie this bad boy on. And if you love jig fishing, I got 2 videos for you. This one right here, the 6 bass fishing jig types and how to fish them, and 6 bass fishing jig modifications every bass angler should know. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see ya.